"Save me, please," she begged. The rancher raised his knife and stumbled back in horror. The ranch was quiet in a way that felt heavy, like the land itself was holding its breath. Wide fields stretched in every direction, broken only by wooden fences and a few old trees that had stood there for decades. The rancher had chosen this place because it was far from town, far from people, and far from trouble. He liked the silence. It gave him space to think, and more importantly, space to forget. His days followed the same pattern. He woke before sunrise, fed the animals, checked the fences, and worked until his body felt tired enough to sleep without thinking too much. At night, he usually sat on the porch with a cup of coffee, watching the sky grow dark. The stars were brighter here than anywhere else he had ever lived. Sometimes he would count them just to keep his mind busy. That evening felt normal at first. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in soft orange and purple colors. The air was cool, and a light wind moved through the grass, making a gentle sound. The rancher finished locking up the tools and walked toward the house. His boots made slow, steady sounds on the wooden porch steps. Everything felt calm. Then he heard it. At first, it was so faint that he thought it was just the wind, a soft, uneven sound, like something brushing against wood. He stopped and listened. The sound came again, clearer this time. It was a weak knock, not strong, not confident, just a small, tired tapping sound. His body became tense right away. No one ever came out here without calling first. The road to the ranch was long and rough. People didn't just wander onto his land by accident. He stood still, listening. The knock came again, followed by something that sounded like a quiet sob. His heart began to beat faster. He walked slowly toward the old barn instead of the front door. The sound was coming from that direction. The barn was large and old, with wooden walls that had seen better days. He kept a flashlight near the door for nights like this. He picked it up, turned it on, and the beam of light cut through the growing darkness. As he moved closer, he called out in a low voice, "Hello? Who's there?" There was no answer at first, just another weak sound. This time, it sounded more like a foot dragging on the ground. He raised the flashlight and shined it toward the side of the barn. The light slowly revealed a figure sitting against the wooden wall. At first, he couldn't tell if it was a person or just a shadow. Then the figure moved. It was a young woman. She looked exhausted. Her clothes were dirty and torn in places. Her hair was messy, and her face was pale. One of her arms was held close to her body, as if moving it caused pain. When the light hit her face, she lifted her head slightly, squinting. In a weak, shaking voice, she said, "Please help me." The words were barely louder than a whisper. The rancher froze. His first feeling was not kindness. It was fear, mixed with confusion. His mind quickly filled with questions. Where did she come from? Why was she here? Was someone else nearby? Was this some kind of trick? He had learned the hard way that not every sad story was true. Life had taught him to be careful. Still, he couldn't ignore what he saw. The woman looked truly hurt. She was shaking, not just from fear, but from exhaustion. Her breathing was uneven, and she struggled to stay sitting up. "Who are you?" he asked, keeping his distance. "How did you get here?" She tried to speak, but her voice broke. Tears filled her eyes. "Ah, Dado. I don't know where else to go," she said. "I was running. I saw the lights. Please, save me." Those words hit him harder than he expected. Save me. He hadn't heard anyone say that to him in a very long time. He looked around the dark fields, shining his flashlight in a slow circle. He didn't see anyone else. No cars, no movement, just empty land and tall grass moving in the wind. "Are you alone?" he asked. She nodded weakly. "I think so. I hope so." He didn't fully believe her, but he also didn't see any reason to leave her out there in the cold and dark. If someone really was after her, leaving her by the barn would only make things worse. "Can you stand?" he asked. She tried to push herself up, but her legs gave out, and she cried out softly in pain. The sound made his chest tighten. Whatever had happened to her, it wasn't small. Against his better judgment, he stepped closer. He kept his flashlight in one hand and offered his other arm for support. She leaned on him carefully, putting only a little weight at first. Her body felt light, like she hadn't eaten much in days. They moved slowly toward the house. Every step seemed to take effort from her. The porch light was still on, casting a warm glow that felt strangely comforting after the darkness near the barn. Inside, the house was simple. Wooden floors, old furniture, and a small kitchen that smelled faintly of coffee. He helped her sit on a chair at the kitchen table. "Sit here," he said. "I'll get you some water." He poured her a glass. Her hands shook as she took it. She drank slowly, as if even lifting the glass was tiring. A little color returned to her face, but she still looked weak. "Thank you," she whispered. He watched her carefully. His eyes went to the marks on her clothes, the dirt, the small cuts and bruises on her arms. These didn't look like simple accidents. They looked like someone who had been running through rough places, maybe falling, maybe hiding. "Do you need a doctor?" he asked. She hesitated. "Maybe, but I'm scared," she said. "I don't want anyone to find me." That made his stomach tighten again. "Find me." Those words carried weight. "Who's looking for you?" he asked. She looked down at her hands. I can't say everything right now," she said. "I just needed a safe place, just for tonight." The rancher leaned back in his chair, studying her face. He could see fear there, real fear. But fear alone didn't always mean truth. Still, his instincts told him she wasn't acting. Her pain looked real. Her tiredness looked real. He thought about his own past, about times when he had wished someone would help him, but no one had been there. That memory made it harder to turn her away. "You can stay for now," he said slowly, "but I need to know you're not bringing trouble to my door." She looked up quickly. "I don't want to hurt anyone," she said. "I just want to be safe." He nodded, though he wasn't fully convinced. "I'll get you a blanket," he said. He went to a small closet and brought out a clean blanket. When he placed it over her shoulders, she relaxed just a little. It was a small thing, but it seemed to mean a lot to her. As she sat there wrapped in the blanket, he realized how young she looked. Not a child, but not someone who had lived an easy life either. Her eyes showed more than her years. They showed someone who had seen too much and trusted too little. The house felt different now. The quiet that he loved felt heavier, filled with questions and worry. The simple life he had built felt fragile, like it could change with one wrong decision. He didn't know it yet, but the knock at the barn door was only the beginning. Whatever had brought her to his ranch was not finished. The night had given him an unexpected visitor, and with her came a story that would soon change everything. For now, all he could do was watch, wait, and hope that letting her inside was the right choice. The night grew quieter after she sat at the kitchen table, but the silence felt different now. It was no longer peaceful. It felt watchful, like the walls themselves were listening. The rancher moved around the kitchen, pretending to stay busy, but his eyes kept going back to the woman. Every small movement she made caught his attention. He brought her a small plate of food. Nothing special, just bread, some soup, and a piece of fruit. She looked at it like it was something precious. She hesitated before eating, as if she wasn't sure she was really allowed to. Then she took small bites, slowly, carefully. It was clear she hadn't eaten well in a long time. "Take your time," he said. "You're safe here for now." The words felt strange in his mouth. Safe. He hadn't promised safety to anyone in years. She nodded, still focused on the food. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You don't know how much this means." He sat across from her, keeping a little distance. He didn't want to scare her, but he also didn't want to let his guard down. His mind kept turning over old memories, times when trusting the wrong person had brought him pain and loss. Those memories had taught him to be careful, to question everything. "What's your name?" he asked. She paused, spoon in midair. "My name is Anna," she said after a moment. He wasn't sure if it was her real name, but he didn't push. "I'm Mark," he replied. It felt fair to share something if he was asking things of her. They sat in silence for a few seconds. The only sounds were the spoon against the bowl and the soft ticking of the old wall clock. Each tick felt louder than usual. "Where are you from?" Mark asked gently. She looked up, then quickly looked down again. "Not far," she said. "I was staying with people I thought I could trust." Thought. The word stood out to him. "And now?" he asked. "And now I know I was wrong," she said. Her voice shook just a little. "Very wrong." Mark noticed how her hands tightened around the spoon. Her shoulders tensed, like just talking about it made her body remember something painful. He leaned back in his chair. "Someone hurt you," he said. It wasn't really a question. She didn't answer right away. Then she gave a small nod. "I tried to leave quietly," she said, "but things went bad. I had to run. I didn't plan to come here. I just kept moving until I saw your lights." The idea of her running through the dark, injured and afraid, made him uncomfortable. It also made him suspicious. People in real danger often came with real trouble behind them. "Did anyone follow you?" he asked. "I don't think so," she said. "But I can't be sure." That was not the answer he wanted. Mark stood and walked to the window. He pulled the curtain back just a little and looked out into the dark. The land was quiet. No headlights, no shadows moving near the fence. Still, his instincts told him not to relax. "You understand I have to be careful," he said without turning around. "I live alone out here. I can't afford surprises." "I understand," Anna said softly. "If I had any other choice, I wouldn't have bothered you." That felt honest. Her voice carried no anger, only tiredness. Mark turned back to face her. He studied her face more closely now. The small cuts, the bruises that were starting to darken, the way she flinched slightly when he moved too fast. These were signs of someone who had been under real stress. "You can sleep on the couch tonight," he said. "It's not much, but it's warm." She looked relieved. "That's more than enough," she said. "Thank you." He brought her another blanket and a small pillow. When she stood, she moved slowly, holding her side as if it hurt. Mark noticed and felt a sharp mix of concern and frustration. He didn't like being pulled into situations he didn't understand. "You should really see someone about those injuries," he said. "Maybe tomorrow," she replied. "Tonight, I just want to rest." He nodded. He couldn't force her. She lay down on the couch, curling slightly on her side. Within minutes, her breathing became slower and deeper. Exhaustion had finally caught up with her. Mark did not sleep. He sat in his chair, listening. Every sound felt important. The wind outside, the soft creaking of the house, the ticking clock. His eyes moved from the window to the front door, then to the hallway, then back to Anna on the couch. His thoughts went back to his past, a time when he had trusted someone who brought trouble into his life. It had cost him more than he liked to remember. Since then, he had built walls, not just around his land, but around his heart. Letting someone inside, even for one night, felt like breaking a rule he had made to protect himself. Still, he couldn't ignore what he had seen in her eyes. Real fear, real need. Around midnight, he heard something outside. It was faint, a sound that didn't belong to the normal night noises. Not wind. Not an animal. Mark stood up, slowly. He moved toward the window again and looked out. The yard was mostly dark, but the moon gave just enough light to see shapes. For a moment, he thought he saw movement near the fence. Then, it was gone. His heart beat faster. He checked the locks on the doors, quietly, carefully. He didn't want to wake Anna, but he also didn't want to be careless. He grabbed his flashlight again and stepped onto the porch. The night air was cold against his face. He scanned the yard, moving the light slowly across the ground, the fence, the trees. Nothing. Still, the feeling didn't go away. The feeling that someone, somewhere, might be watching. He went back inside and locked the door behind him. He leaned against it for a moment, breathing slowly, trying to calm his thoughts. When he looked back at Anna, he noticed she was awake. Her eyes were open, watching him. "I heard something," she whispered. "So did I," he said honestly. Her face grew tense. "They found me," she said softly. "I knew this would happen." "Don't jump to that," Mark said. "It could be nothing." But even as he said it, he wasn't sure he believed it. "I don't want to cause you trouble," Anna said. "If you want me to leave, I will." Mark looked at her, really looked at her. She was scared, tired, and hurt. Sending her back out into the dark didn't sit right with him. "You're not leaving tonight," he said firmly. "If someone is out there, leaving would be worse." She swallowed. "I'm sorry," she said. "I never meant to bring this to your door." He sighed. "Life doesn't always ask what we mean," he replied. "Sometimes it just shows up." The rest of the night passed slowly. No more sounds came from outside, but sleep did not come easily for either of them. The air between them was heavy with unspoken fears and unanswered questions. By morning, one thing was clear to Mark. This woman's past was not simple. Whatever she was running from was not small, and by letting her stay, he had stepped into something that could change his quiet life in ways he could not yet see. The ranch was no longer just his safe place. It had become a hiding place, and that meant danger might not be far behind. The first light of morning came slowly, turning the dark sky into soft gray. The ranch looked peaceful again, like nothing strange had ever happened. Birds began to sing, and the cold night air slowly warmed. From the outside, everything looked normal, but inside the house, tension still filled every corner. Mark had not slept at all. He sat at the small kitchen table holding a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. His eyes felt heavy, but his mind was wide awake. Every sound from the night replayed in his thoughts. The movement near the fence, the feeling of being watched, the fear in Anna's voice. Anna finally woke up as the sun came up. She sat up slowly on the couch, blinking as if trying to remember where she was. When she saw Mark at the table, her shoulders relaxed a little. "Morning," she said softly. "Morning," he replied. "How are you feeling?" "Tired," she said honestly. "But a little better than last night." She wrapped the blanket tighter around herself and stood up carefully. Mark noticed she still moved slowly, protecting her side. "You should sit," he said. "I'll make some tea." She nodded and sat at the table. Mark filled the kettle and set it on the stove. The simple sounds of boiling water and cups being placed on the table felt strangely comforting. For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. The quiet was heavy, filled with thoughts neither wanted to say out loud. "About last night," Anna said finally. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you." Mark looked at her. "You didn't scare me," he said. "The situation did." She gave a small, sad smile. "That's fair." Mark studied her face. In the daylight, he could see more clearly how tired she really was. Dark circles under her eyes, small marks on her skin, the kind of look that came from days of stress and fear. "Anna," he said carefully, "if you're going to stay here, I need to understand more. I can't protect what I don't understand." She took a deep breath. "I know," she said. It's hard to talk about." "I'm not asking for every detail," he replied. "Just enough to know what kind of danger we're dealing with." She stared into her cup for a long moment. Then she spoke. "I worked for people who weren't honest," she said. "At first, everything seemed normal. They promised me work and a place to stay. I trusted them. That was my mistake." Mark stayed quiet, letting her continue. "Over time, I realized things weren't right," she said. "They controlled everything. Who I talked to, where I went, I felt trapped. When I tried to leave, they didn't take it well." Her voice shook slightly, but she kept going. "I didn't wait for things to get worse," she said. "I ran. I didn't have a plan. I just knew I had to get away." Mark felt a tight feeling in his chest. "So you think they might be looking for you?" "Yes," she said quietly. "Not because they care, but because they don't like losing control." That made sense to him. He had seen enough of the world to know how some people acted when they felt challenged. "Did you contact anyone?" he asked. "Friends? Family?" She shook her head. "I didn't want to put anyone else in danger." Mark nodded slowly. He respected that, even if it made things harder. After breakfast, Mark decided to check the land. If someone really had been near the fence, he wanted to know. He told Anna to rest while he walked around. "Lock the door," he said. "Don't open it for anyone." "I will," she promised. Mark stepped outside, his eyes scanning everything. He walked slowly along the fence line, looking for signs, footprints, broken grass, anything that didn't belong. Near the spot where he thought he saw movement, he noticed something. The grass was pressed down in a way that didn't look natural. It wasn't clear proof, but it was enough to make his stomach turn. Someone had been there. Mark felt a wave of anger and worry. His quiet ranch was no longer just his. Someone else had stepped onto his land without permission. That crossed a line for him. When he returned to the house, his face was serious. "What did you see?" Anna asked. "Nothing clear," he said, "but enough to make me believe your fear isn't just in your head." She closed her eyes for a moment. "I was afraid of that." Mark leaned against the counter. His mind started working through options. Call someone. Move her somewhere else. Ignore it and hope it went away. None of the choices felt easy. "I don't want you to feel trapped here," he said. But I also don't want you running again while you're hurt. I don't know where else to go, Anna said. I thought I was safe for one night. I didn't think it would follow me this fast. Mark rubbed his face with his hands. Neither did I. The rest of the morning passed with nervous energy. Mark worked around the house, fixing small things that didn't really need fixing. Anna stayed close, helping when she could, but mostly resting. Around midday, something happened that changed everything. They heard a car, the sound of an engine coming down the long dirt road. It was a sound Mark knew well, because it almost never happened. Both of them froze. Mark looked at Anna. Her face went pale. That's them, she whispered. I know it. Don't panic, Mark said, though his own heart was racing. We don't know that. The engine sound grew closer, then stopped. A car had pulled up near the gate. Mark moved toward the window and peeked through the curtain. A dark car sat on the road. He could see at least one person inside. He felt a cold feeling in his stomach. Whoever it was, they hadn't come by accident. Mark's instincts kicked in. His ranch, his home, his responsibility. Stay here, he told Anna. Don't make a sound. He quietly moved toward the back room, where he kept tools and emergency supplies. His hands shook slightly as he reached for a knife he used for farm work. Not to harm, but to protect himself if things turned bad. His mind raced with worst-case thoughts. He returned to the main room, holding the knife low and out of sight. The sound of a car door opening echoed through the quiet. Then came footsteps, slow, heavy, purposeful. A knock came at the front door. It wasn't weak like Anna's had been. It was firm, confident, the kind of knock that expected an answer. Mark felt his body tense. His grip on the knife tightened. Mark, a voice called from outside. We're looking for someone. We were told she might be here. Hearing his own name shocked him. How did they know? Anna covered her mouth to keep from making a sound. Tears filled her eyes. Mark stepped closer to the door, but did not open it. I don't know what you're talking about, he said through the door. The voice outside stayed calm. Too calm. We don't want trouble, the person said. Just a quick look, then we'll be on our way. Mark's heart pounded. This was the moment everything changed. His quiet life, his safety, everything was at risk. He glanced back at Anna. She shook her head slightly, fear written all over her face. That's when it hit him. This was bigger than he thought. The people outside weren't just looking around. They were hunting. And by letting Anna into his home, Mark had put himself directly in the middle of it. His mind filled with thoughts of all the wrong ways this could go. Fear mixed with anger. He had lived alone to avoid exactly this kind of situation. The knock came again, harder this time. Open the door, the voice said. We can do this the easy way. Mark felt a rush of emotion. Fear, rage, protectiveness. He had never planned to be a hero. He just wanted a quiet life. But now, someone was trying to bring danger into his home. He raised the knife slightly, ready for anything. Then something happened that made him stumble back in shock. From outside, he heard another voice, a voice that sounded unsure. She's hurt, the second voice said. We shouldn't be doing this. There was an argument outside. Low voices, tense words. Mark realized something important in that moment. Not everyone out there agreed with what was happening. The situation was more complicated than he thought. There were cracks in the people chasing Anna. Doubt, conflict, Mark stepped back from the door, his mind racing. This wasn't just a simple threat. This was a dangerous situation with many moving parts. One wrong move could change everything. As the voices outside continued, Mark knew one thing for sure. The truth about Anna's past was only starting to come out. And the horror he felt was not just fear of danger. It was the realization that he was now part of her story. There was no turning back. Mark stood frozen for a moment after hearing the voices outside. His heart was beating so fast that he could feel it in his ears. The knife in his hand suddenly felt heavier than before. He had picked it up to feel safe, but now it reminded him how serious the situation had become. Outside, the voices continued. They were low, tense, and angry. "We can't just walk away," the first voice said. "We were told she's here, and I'm telling you, this is wrong," the second voice replied. "She's hurt. This isn't how this should be handled." Mark held his breath and listened. Anna stood behind him, shaking. She grabbed the back of a chair to keep herself steady. "They're arguing," she whispered. "That means they're not all the same." Mark nodded slowly. That small detail gave him a strange kind of hope. If there was disagreement, then maybe there was a chance to handle this without things getting worse. The knock came again, but this time it was softer. "Sir," the first voice said through the door, trying to sound calm. "We just want to talk. No one wants trouble." Mark felt anger rise in his chest. Trouble had already arrived. It was standing right outside his door. "You brought the trouble here," Mark said firmly. "This is my property. You need to leave." There was a pause. The air felt thick, like everyone was waiting to see who would move first. Then the second voice spoke again. "Look, let's slow down. This man doesn't know us. We're not helping our case by pushing." Anna leaned closer to Mark. "He sounds different," she whispered. "He didn't want to hurt me before. He tried to help me once." Mark looked at her in surprise. "You recognize him?" She nodded slightly. "Not well, but he was kinder than the others." That was important. Mark took a slow breath and made a decision. He carefully set the knife on the table, within reach but not in his hand. He didn't want to make a move that would make things worse. He stepped closer to the door but still did not open it. "If you really don't want trouble," Mark said, "then you'll explain why you're here from where you stand." There was another pause. Then the second voice answered. "My name is Daniel," the man said. "We work for the same company she used to be with. Things got complicated. We were told to bring her back." "Bring her back to what?" Mark asked. Daniel hesitated. That hesitation spoke louder than any words. "To sort things out," Daniel finally said. Anna let out a quiet, bitter laugh. "That's not true," she said loudly enough for them to hear. "You know what they wanted. You know why I ran." Silence followed. Then Daniel spoke again, quieter this time. "Anna, you should have talked to someone. Running made it worse." "Staying would have destroyed me," she replied. Her voice was shaking, but it was strong. "I did what I had to do." Mark listened carefully. He could hear real emotion in both voices. This wasn't just strangers chasing someone. This was people tangled in something messy and wrong. The first voice, the more aggressive one, cut in. "Enough talking. Open the door. We don't have all day."
Mark felt his anger rise again. "You don't get to give orders here," he said.
"This is my home." The man outside laughed shortly. "You don't want to get involved in this," he said. "It's bigger than you." That was the wrong thing to say. Mark straightened his back. You made it my business when you came onto my land, he replied. Now you can leave. Another long pause. Daniel spoke again, sounding tired. He's right. This isn't going to end well if we force it. Do your job, the first man snapped. For a moment, Mark imagined the two of them standing on the dirt road, facing each other, both stubborn, both tense. The situation felt like a rope being pulled too tight, ready to snap. Inside, Anna sat down heavily in a chair. The stress was clearly draining her strength. Mark glanced at her and felt a strong sense of responsibility. He had let her in. Now he couldn't just stand back and watch her be taken. Listen, Mark said through the door, choosing his words carefully. Mac, she's hurt. She's not going anywhere today. If you have a real reason, you can come back with the right people. Until then, you're done here. You're making a mistake, the first man said. Maybe, Mark replied. Now, but it's my mistake to make. There was another argument outside, quieter this time. Mark couldn't hear every word, but he could hear frustration, disagreement, and doubt. Finally, he heard a car door open and then slam shut. The engine started. Mark held his breath, afraid it was a trick. The engine sound stayed steady, then slowly began to move away. He waited. The sound faded down the dirt road until it was gone. Only then did Mark allow himself to relax a little. His legs felt weak. He leaned against the wall and closed his eyes for a moment. They're gone, Anna said softly. For now, Mark replied. She covered her face with her hands and started to cry, not loud, but deep, tired crying. The kind that came from holding fear inside for too long. Mark felt awkward, unsure what to do. He wasn't used to comforting people. Still, he gently placed a hand on her shoulder. You're safe right now, he said. That's what matters. She looked up at him, tears in her eyes. I'm so sorry, she said. I never wanted to pull you into this. You didn't choose to be chased, Mark said, and I chose to help you. That part is on me. They sat in silence for a while. The house felt different again. Not just tense now, but changed. Something had crossed a line. There was no going back to pretending nothing was wrong. I need to tell you more, Anna said finally. You deserve to know what you're dealing with. Mark nodded. I'm listening. She took a deep breath. The people I worked for weren't just dishonest, she said. They used fear to control people. If someone wanted to leave, they made it difficult. They spread stories. They pressured. They threatened in quiet ways that were hard to prove. Mark frowned. That's why you ran instead of reporting them. Yes, she said. I didn't trust the system to protect me fast enough. I thought disappearing was safer. And now they're trying to bring you back, Mark said. Not for me, she replied. For what I know. That caught his attention. What you know. I saw things, she said. Things they didn't want seen. Records. Conversations. Proof of how they treated people. Mark felt a chill. That explained why they were so determined. You're not just someone who ran, he said. You're someone who could cause them serious problems. She nodded. That's why I'm scared. They don't just want me quiet. They want control. Mark leaned back, processing everything. This was bigger than a simple workplace problem. This was a system built on pressure and fear. That means you can't just hide forever, he said. I know, she replied quietly. But I needed time. I needed somewhere to breathe, somewhere to think. Mark looked around his small, simple house. the place he had chosen to escape the world. Now the world had found him anyway. "You can stay here for now," he said, "but we need a real plan." Anna looked at him with a mix of relief and worry. "I don't want you to get hurt because of me." "You didn't cause their behavior," Mark said. "They did." Outside, the ranch looked peaceful again. The sun was higher now. Birds flew over the fields. Anyone looking would think it was just another quiet day in the countryside. But inside, both of them knew the truth. The danger hadn't ended. It had only paused. Mark had stepped into something much bigger than he ever wanted. His quiet life was gone. In its place was a responsibility he didn't ask for, but now carried. And Anna, sitting across from him, knew that hiding was no longer enough. Soon, they would have to face what she ran from, together or not at all. The house felt strangely calm after the car disappeared down the dirt road. The silence returned, but it was not the peaceful silence Mark was used to. It was a waiting silence, the kind that made every small sound feel important. Mark poured 2 more cups of tea and placed one in front of Anna. His hands were steady now, but inside his thoughts were still racing. What had started as a simple act of helping someone in need had turned into something much larger. They sat across from each other, the table between them like a thin line separating their old lives from whatever came next. "We can't pretend this didn't happen," Mark said. "They know you're here. Even if they left, they can come back." Anna nodded slowly. "I know. Running again won't solve it." For the first time since she arrived, her voice sounded more determined than afraid. "I don't want to live like this anymore," she said. "Always looking over my shoulder. Always hiding." Mark studied her face. He saw fear still there, but he also saw something new. Strength. The kind that came after someone had been pushed too far. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "I think I need to stop running," Anna said. "I need to face this the right way." Mark leaned back in his chair. "That means involving people who can actually help." "Yes," she said. "It scares me, but staying silent scares me more." They talked for a long time, about what she had seen, about the records and information she had kept hidden, about the people who had been hurt before her. The more she spoke, the clearer it became that her story was not just about her. It was about a pattern, a system that depended on people being too afraid to speak. "You could help a lot of people," Mark said quietly. "That's what I keep thinking," she replied. "If I stay quiet, they win, and nothing changes." Mark looked out the window at his land, the fences, the fields, the simple life he had built with hard work and distance from trouble. He had wanted to be alone, safe, forgotten by the problems of the world. But now, the world had knocked on his barn door. "I can't promise this will be easy," he said, "or safe." Anna gave a small, serious smile. "Nothing about my life has been easy lately." They agreed on a plan. Not a perfect one, just a first step. Mark would drive her into town the next morning. They would go to people who could listen, who could protect her, and who could look into what she knew, not just for her safety, but for the safety of others. That night, they both tried to sleep. Mark offered her the small, spare bedroom. It wasn't fancy, but it was private and warm. She thanked him again, her voice full of tired gratitude. As Mark lay in his own bed staring at the ceiling, he thought about how quickly life could change. One knock, one decision, one person asking for help. He realized something about himself, too. He had built walls to avoid pain. But those same walls had also kept him from meaning, from connection. from purpose. Helping Anna was dangerous, but turning her away would have been worse. He knew that now. In the middle of the night, he woke up to the sound of rain. Soft at first, then heavier. The rain hit the roof and windows, washing the land, blurring the edges of the world outside. He found comfort in that sound. Rain meant change. It meant cleaning away old dust. It meant new beginnings. Morning came with gray clouds and wet ground. The dirt road was muddy but passable. Mark prepared his truck while Anna packed the few things she had. Before they left, Anna stopped at the door and looked back at the house. "This place gave me time to breathe," she said. "Time to think. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't found your lights." Mark shrugged slightly. "Maybe we both needed this moment," he said. The drive into town was quiet. Rain tapped lightly on the windshield. The fields passed by, slowly turning into buildings and paved roads. Anna's hands were tight in her lap. "You don't have to do this," she said suddenly. "You could turn around. I wouldn't blame you." Mark shook his head. "I gave my word. I don't break that." She looked at him, surprised. Then she nodded. "Thank you." When they arrived, the place felt busy compared to the quiet ranch. People walking, cars passing, noise, life moving forward. Anna took a deep breath. "This is it," she said. "No more hiding." Mark parked and turned to her. "Whatever happens next, you won't be facing it alone." She swallowed and nodded. The process was not quick. They told her story more than once. They answered questions. They showed what little proof she had managed to keep safe. It was tiring, emotional, draining. But something important happened too. People listened. Not everyone doubted her. Not everyone turned away. Some took notes. Some asked careful questions. Some looked at the information with serious faces. For the first time in a long while, Anna felt something she hadn't felt in months. By the time they left, it was late afternoon. The rain had stopped. The clouds were breaking, letting small pieces of sunlight through. In the truck, Anna leaned her head back and closed her eyes. "It started," she said softly. "Whatever happens now, at least the truth is out." Mark nodded. "That takes courage." She gave a tired smile. "I didn't feel brave. I just felt tired of being afraid." When they returned to the ranch, everything looked the same. The fences, the barn, the quiet land. But Mark knew things were different. The ranch was no longer just a place to hide from the world. It had become the place where a choice was made, a choice to stand up instead of step back. Over the next days and weeks, life slowly changed. There were phone calls, visits, long conversations, sometimes worry, sometimes relief. Anna stayed at the ranch for a while longer, not as someone hiding, but as someone waiting for the next steps. She grew stronger. Her injuries healed. Her fear slowly loosened its grip. Mark found himself changing too. He laughed more. He talked more. He cared again. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in warm colors, they sat on the porch, watching the fields. "You know," Anna said, "that night I knocked on your barn door. I thought my life was over." Mark looked at the sky. "And now?" "And now," she said, "I think it was the night my life started again." Mark nodded slowly. "Mine too, in a way." The horror that had brought them together had turned into something else. Not just survival. Not just fear. It had turned into courage, trust, and the quiet strength that comes from choosing to do the right thing, even when it's hard. The ranch was still quiet, but it was no longer empty. It held a story of a woman who stopped running and a man who stopped hiding. Oh, and in that quiet place, something powerful had begun.